share is working.
Well, only the right now only I can host or share from the host.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just leave it as it is. At least you can see you.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
We had a nice turnout today. So into July already, halfway through the year. Thankfully, we're in the nice air-conditioned rooms. It's hot. All right, so today, I actually added something since I put the newsletter out. So they didn't get a lot of questions from people. Going to talk about what we're going to expect from Apple for the rest of this year and maybe the early next year. I'll give you an idea of what to put on your Christmas wish list. But first, I want to welcome our steering committee, Matt Canzio, David Day.
Hello, good morning.
Harry Morrows.
Morning.
Ed Sheeran.
Hi.
Jeanne Sparks.
Hi.
I'm George Wagner. And Bob Wilkerson. Bob here today? I don't think Bob's here today.
George.
Yeah.
Bob isn't going to be around. He had surgery for bladder cancer. I mean, pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer.
Pancreatic cancer, yeah.
Right.
Oh.
And so,
okay?
well, he survived the surgery. It's going to be a long road to recovery. There's always complications with this sort of thing. It's a massive assault on the body when they do the surgery. And we'll just see what happens.
Pass along our best to him, please.
Right.
Yeah, his spirits are good. Is very optimistic at this point, but he's been through an awful lot.
Well, let's hope it gets better quickly. So our steering committee is responsible for deciding content, what we present in our meetings, where we're going. So please, if you have questions, comments, suggestions, if you want to do a presentation about something, if you want to see a presentation about something, let one of us know so we can make that happen. So we can make this group exactly what everybody wants it to be. All right. And do we have any guests today? I'm down the list here. I don't see any guests, but if I missed somebody, welcome. We been doing this since Zoom since the pandemic. We're planning on moving to a live meeting again, and that should happen probably within the next few months, hopefully, if we can find a location. But we'll keep you updated on that. Okay. So today I am going to talk about what is coming down the pipe. Apple has a lot of things that we can expect. Got the iPhone 6 Pro and Max and the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, 16 Plus. That, of course, everybody knows we have new phones every year. But these have some interesting things. We'll get into that in a minute. We got new AirPods, new AirPod Maxes, Apple Watch, MacBook Pros, iPad Mini, iPad, or your iPad 11th generation, and possibly Mac Mini and iMac stuff. First, we'll talk about the iPhone 16 Pro and 16 Max. They're going to have larger displays. They're moving to the 16.3 on the Pro and 16.9 on the Pro Max. We have a dedicated button for the camera. Camera upgrades. You've got a better ultra wide camera. You've got improved low light performance and a 5x optical zoom. That just amazes me. They can get that in such a small space. The mirror trick they use is very impressive. The new A18 Pro chip, which is built specifically for AI feeds with a new supercharged neural engine. That's going to be very interesting to see what that can do. The iPhone 16 and 16 Plus, same size as the current one, 16.1 and 6.1 and 6.7. 16.1 would be a little big. 6.7 inch displays. This may or may not have the hardware button for the camera. Then the rumors are not sure on that. Also, it's definitely gonna have an A18 chip. It may have the Pro chip. Again, rumors abound both directions on that. New AirPod Generation 4. They have two separate tiers. They're going to have the low price version, and then they have the more of the premium option. These are going to replace the current 2 and 3 versions of the AirPods that are out. The USB case is moving from a Lightning to a USB-C charging port, which you see more and more across Apple products. Updated stem design looks more like a blend between the AirPods Pro and the AirPod 3. So they modified the look a little bit. Has the noise, one of the features of the premium option is the noise cancellation and the Find My support. Don't know why the Find My support's not on the lower end. That would be useful, but that's what the rumors are saying. AirPod Max 2, basically, again, the switch to the USB-C, adaptive audio, conversation awareness, which should help with the younger kids not listening to you, personalized audio. Oh, that's that one. Apple Watch Series 10, they are increasing the size of the watches. The current smaller version will basically be about the size of the the new smaller version will be the size of the current larger version, and then the new larger version will be the size of the Ultra. Slimming down the cases as well. More powerful chip in there. They don't say what chip it is, but they're thinking that they may move into the M series chips or more powerful A series chips, so that you can get some of the artificial intelligence on the watch itself. That could be very interesting. Health sensors for hypertension and sleep apnea are also talked about. Apple's big in the health side of it, so it wouldn't surprise me at all. They're also going to be updating the Apple Watch Ultra, 3rd generation. They don't know much about it other than the fact that it's going to be a little bit bigger. It's going to have at least the same capabilities as the Series 10 watches, and then have a faster chip that is better equipped for AI. That definitely will have the faster chip, and then the health sensors as well. My guess is it will probably be a little bit bigger than the current model, since the Series 10 is going to match the size of the current Ultra. It's probably going to be just a little bit bigger. And then, of course, as is always important for Apple products, aesthetics, these new space black titanium option. M4 MacBook Pro. This one should be really popular. Okay. We're talking about having an M4 version, M4 Pro version, and M4 Max version. So we'll see some very speedy laptops. The design itself will not change, nothing significant at least. They're really just, it's going to be inside upgrades, just to give you more power, which is fine. The current design is good design. I'm not a big fan of changes for change's sake. So something works, stick with it. iPad Mini 7. iPad Mini has not been updated in a while, so this is definitely a welcome upgrade. The display is going to be the better display. The current ones have a little bit of what they call like a jelly motion to it, when this is supposed to be much crisper, much cleaner, faster display, so you won't have that. It's going to have a revised chip. I'm not sure which one, but it'll definitely be a more up-to-date chip than the current Mini. Again, possibly one of the M class, probably not a 4, but My guess is either a 1 or a 3. The 11th generation iPad, which will basically be the base model, going to have the more powerful chip, again, updated from what's in the current model. And then they're talking about some potential enhancements for the Apple Pencil, but no major hardware redesign. So it look the same, but should be better under the hood. Now the M4 Mac Mini and iMac, both expected either in late 2024 or early 2025. The rumors say that they expect the Mini and the MacBook Pro to probably be released at the same time, and then the iMac to come a little bit later. Some things that may or may not, come within the next 6 months. A new updated Apple TV, HomePod with a display, and a lot of other little things that they're working on. So I think we have a good year ahead of us for the geeks in the crowd here, which is everybody. Not a lot of specifics, but I think a lot of things to look forward to. iPhones will be probably the first thing we'll hear about, and then the other things will probably come in the next 2 months after that.
George, with your permission, I'd like to take us up 30,000 feet and
Sure.
wonder what Apple's future is going to be. In other words, these are welcome and interesting additions, but we've had all this gear, all these models for quite a few years, and the latest and greatest, world-changing product they've announced that I can, in my opinion, is the Apple Vision Pro, and they're talking about an Apple Vision. Where's Apple going? I mean, they canceled the car. They're not going to do the car anymore. They don't seem to be moving into heavy-duty development software like the various photo and video processing apps. What else can they do? And there are a lot of competitors there. So I'd be interested in your thoughts about where Apple's product strategy is going.
Well, as far as the car goes, the car has been an on again, off again thing for 10 years now.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really concern me that they, quote, canceled the car, because I would lay odds that they're still working on the software, and they're now looking at more of a aftermarket, basically licensing it to the existing car makers as opposed to making their own car. There's been talk about that for a while as well. So I'm not overly concerned about that. A lot of what they're doing with all these other things are technologies that will also lend themselves to that car software. The Vision Pro, I think, is where we're going to see a lot of movement, because unlike the virtual reality, this is augmented reality, which allows you to actually interact in the real world with the virtual world. So it does offer some possibilities. Obviously, they're going to have to slim down the goggles in order for that to be a viable, outside the world, type of thing, to make them look more like traditional glasses or sunglasses, to make it less obnoxious. Somebody wearing them out in public. But I think that's where they're going with that. It would make sense. I also think that Apple, has a lot of irons in the fire of things that we probably have no idea about. That if they keep to their tradition, may upset the apple cart a little bit. They need to, because
Yeah, and that's my point. We haven't talked about anything that's going to shake the ground, and that's what's made them. Here we got NVIDIA now, as I understand it, is challenging Apple for the number 2 revenue company in the world. Most of the large AI installations are using huge configurations of NVIDIA processors, and Apple with its technology could be there as well, but they've taken a different tack and moved towards AI, apparently, instead of just brute force like Nvidia's doing. But I'm looking for something that's really different. Using the Vision Pro, if you look at their promotional marketing stuff, they're anticipating that being for use in business and helping people communicate through projects and whatever. I guess that's possible, but boy, that's going to take a long time to mature.
Well, it's hard to say. Apple has, I mean, look at the iPad. The iPad went from, weird named device to
Yeah.
every day everybody had one device fairly quickly. And that they weren't the first to release a tablet. There were several tablets that were out before theirs, but they did it right, and they got it out there. So I think that given their sheer mass, if they have a good product, it will get adopted quickly.
Yeah.
If they can make the market for it, and that's always the big things. If they can sell it. Businesses are always a good target for that type of thing, and then eventually it'll move into the consumer market. I think you'll see the development of more entertainment type of things. Apple's always benefited from the developers doing things with their products that Apple didn't necessarily intend or plan on. So we'll see what happens with that. It's hard to say. I mean, you get to a point where there's only so many markets, so many frontiers you can move into. They are moving to AI. They've done some deal with Chat GPT to bump up their artificial intelligence. So who knows? Maybe they're building a Terminator in there. I don't know.
Thank you, George. I appreciate your opinions and thoughts.
So, all right, let's move on to our questions. No one mentioned send in any questions, so we'll have to do the free form here. Anybody got an issue or topic they want to talk about?
George,
Hey.
I didn't send it in, but I got a new MacBook Pro Max, and I did the migration app and migrated everything successfully from my old Mac to my new one. And instead of using the Wi-Fi, I used the Thunderbolt cable. It didn't take me about 2 hours, where on Wi-Fi it would take 6 hours. But anyway, the issue I ran into was hidden files. Once I migrated, several of my programs had files in the hidden file section, and I didn't know how to access the hidden files. I finally found out, and I had to eliminate those. Can you talk about the hidden files a little bit and what they're used for and where they're located, how to access them?
Well, there's a couple of things. You've got hidden files in the library because it itself is hidden, and then you've got invisible files that are physically not. You can't see them unless you turn on the option to see invisible files, and that I believe is in the here. Actually, let's stop our sharing. We don't need to see that screen while we talk. I believe. Option. Give me a second. I'm looking for that. Zoom windows blocking too much stuff. Well, I'll look to that while we move on to another question.
Hey, George, maybe I'll take this as a chance to talk about what I mentioned to you this morning.
Sure.
We are interested, there's a number of folks in the group who are interested in getting back to, in addition to the Zoom meetings that we have, which I like a lot, but there are folks that want to get face to face, you know, and develop some friendships and whatever. Matt Canizio and I have been actively looking for a place for us to do that, and so far we're coming up blank. So if anybody has an idea of where we might be able to, Terry's got a wonderful place to begin. And so what we want to do, first of all, if there's anybody has an idea for a larger space, I'd like to hear about it, and I'm sure Matt would as well. But in the meantime, it's been suggested and offered very graciously by Terry for us to gather a group, and let's call it, for the sake of discussion, a special interest group that would meet sometime during the month, probably at Terry's convenience, and everybody would be coming to discuss either a particular topic or a class of topics. We need an opportunity for people to be able to prepare to help others. But the idea would be a shirt sleeve working session right there in Terry's lab place, and just, you know, have as many senior folks as possible, senior in a sense of Apple experience, that would come, and then anybody else that wanted to come. So with the interest of doing that, giving us, I would suggest we try to set up a meeting for sometime in August and see if we can find something. Terry, if you have a date that you could suggest that we would do it, we can set that up today. And then if anybody has an idea of a topic or a subject class we ought to discuss, let's go ahead and have ideas right now. And I don't want to take too long because George wants to finish up here, and I agree. But anybody have any ideas about what we should talk about? And then we'll talk about a date. The clock is ticking. Yeah, I could, yeah.
I don't know if you might be buying some new computers, but using a migration app might be a topic to discuss, because there's several ways you can migrate using a migration app, and Wi-Fi or either Thunderbolt cable, and but there's a lot of literature on that. That might be something if someone's going to purchase a new computer, how you migrate from the old computer to a new computer.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah, this is Ken. I'm always interested in issues with PDF files. The edits that I make on a PDF file don't necessarily hold, and I don't know whether I'm doing something wrong. And then sort of a second part, these aren't PDF files, but metadata. I can't get metadata to stick past the original. I put identify people in a picture, and then if I try to send that picture or even copy that picture, the metadata is gone. So I'm trying to figure out how to keep the information with a particular picture. So those are kind of basics.
Okay.
And my calendar is basically open anytime, any weekday after 5, and any Saturday except for the third Saturday of every month. That's when I run my other club. So other than that, I mean, if we want to do a Saturday, I'm no problem at all. Happy to do it.
So the choice, thank you, Terry. So the options would be an after business hours during the week, or pretty much any time on Saturday. Is that on particular Saturdays?
Yeah.
All right. Is anybody willing to stick their neck out and tell us their preference?
Well, if we are moving to a physical meeting for this, it might not be bad idea to plan on doing it
After this kind of a meeting.
Right.
Yeah. You mean on the same day?
That's what I'm thinking. That way everybody's already out in that
Oh.
area. And
As
What do you
long as
think,
I can
Matt?
bring lunch in, you're okay.
Ken, would you repeat that?
Yes, as long as I can bring lunch in, you're okay, because come
Oh,
around
okay.
noon, I gotta eat.
Well, we could do that. I mean, we could either gather at Terry's place early and do this a Zoom with 4 or 5 or 10 of us. From there, you've got the equipment to do that, don't you, Terry?
The only thing I do not have would be a camera so that other people could see us. But I've
Oh.
got microphones, speakers, TVs, high-speed internet. All the rest of the pieces are already set
Okay.
up.
We could use an iPhone. It wouldn't be very.
Yeah, that's not a
It
problem.
wouldn't do what we're doing here, but anyway.
Mhm.
Well, that's a thought. So, Terry, let's set up a Saturday in August, and I'll try to pull up my calendar, and everybody, I guess, do the same. July, August. It doesn't matter to me. Whenever.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to take George's advice, I mean, we're doing a T-Mug on the 10th. I have no problem doing it, after T-Mug on the 10th, if that works for everybody.
All right, let's do that then.
sounds like a plan.
Works for me.
So are we gonna have a solid break between 12 and 1, or are we gonna gather at Terry's place with bags of sandwiches, or what's the deal? That
Well, we
wouldn't be a
could,
bad-
we could do, go eat lunch and then do our thing.
It's a good idea. Eat lunch individually or as a
No,
group.
I'd say,
depending on what-
I mean, that's up to people, but I'd say, yeah, we can also, hey, let's go to such and such a place, and anyone who wants to come can come. And even if they don't want to necessarily do the other meeting, they come enjoy lunch with the group.
Good idea. Okay. All right. Well, that
Yeah.
sounds like a good idea. And in the meantime, before the 10th, maybe we can, I think the topics that were mentioned today are excellent. I've had some of the same issues that Ken has had with trying to get metadata and keep it. And ever since Aperture went away, I just can't deal with it. Anyway, let's plan that. And I think Ed's idea of migration help there again doesn't happen often, but when you're doing it, you need that help. And by the way, just for those of you that haven't seen, Terry has posted Apple's ideas and thoughts on the chat. So there's 3 different links you can access. George, thank you for letting me take the floor here for a few minutes.
Not a problem.
I'm done.
Back to our question we had. If you go into Finder, grab any Finder window, if you hit on the keyboard Command Shift period, it will toggle invisible files, visible or not visible. Every time you hit it, it'll toggle between the two. They made it a lot easier. It used to be a little more involved, and no, I knew they made shortcuts and didn't remember what it was. So it's Command Shift period.
And on my iPad, I now have an icon for the gallery. I didn't do anything except get excited because it's there. So something you did, George, enabled that.
I've been accused of just having to threaten the computer with me and things start working. I'm gonna call George.
Yeah.
My daughter once called me upstairs. I got to the top of the steps. She goes, "Thanks, Dad."
That's not nice.
Well,
Do you know? I have a question. This is not a 30,000-foot question. Is there a slideshow app or setup in iPad OS so that I can look at photos I've migrated over from my old Mac Pro, the only way I could do a portable migration was turn them all into JPEGs. And the only way that I don't want to put those photos, those are my professional photos, I don't want to put those in the Photos app. I can't find any way to look at those using like a slideshow app on the iPad. Does anybody have any suggestions?
Well, actually, if you select them all and hit a quick look, you will.
But that's
you
on
will
a
have-
Mac.
Oh, that's right. You're on iPad. Never mind.
I'm surprised.
Did you check the App Store?
Yeah, there's nothing there. I mean, I would have thought a replacement for the preview app, but there is none for the iPad.
I will have to look into that.
Maybe I just, I thought about setting up an album and make it invisible so that when the grandkids are playing around looking at photos, they don't get in there and do stuff to my 50,000 professional photos. So, okay, thank you.
Actually, I'm seeing an app called Slideshow Creator.
Yeah, but that takes video, and you can cut video pieces out and string them together to make a slideshow that way. That was my understanding of that app.
Basically, it creates a movie from photos and or video clips.
Right.
Okay.
If you make the slideshow in Photos, you can use any external program just to run it as a video. Isn't that correct? So you wouldn't be going into Apple Photos just to see the slide. It would be like a mini movie. It wouldn't be frames, but it would get the
I
collection
don't
of
care about
photos.
the frames, but yeah. So you think that I could make a gallery or a separate library, load these images, these JPEG images in it, and play it as a movie using iPhoto or
Well, you would create the movie using iPhoto, and then you could use something like VLC to
yeah,
play the video outside of Apple Photos app.
yeah.
There's another option. If you create a iCloud shared library or shared album, excuse me, those photos are then put in the cloud. You can remove them from the library after you've created this.
Okay.
Then via the web link, you can view that, or from the iPad tab, you can view that shared library as a slideshow or individually.
Using Safari or using
Safari or using the Photos app, it will show any shared albums that are tied to your ID.
okay, all right.
And
Thanks for the
does a really nice job of making a pretty nicely designed web page for viewing, and then you hit the slideshow to show them or individually look at them.
Okay, thank you for the suggestions. Good.
Okay,
Any
it's
other
Ken here, and I got a question. You know, I got questions coming out of my ears. I use tags, as most of you all know, on almost every file. And to find the files, various files that are tagged, you go over to the left-hand side of your Finder, and you scroll down, and you find the tag that you want, and you click on it. The problem with that is that every file with that tag on it comes up, which is what you want, except that the files on your computer with that tag on it, the files in the iCloud with that tag on it, and the files in Time Machine come up. So I get 3 files for every file that I'm looking for. Is there a way to restrict finding tags to strictly on my Mac?
I believe if you go into Spotlight, into the preferences or settings on the newer one, go into Spotlight. I think you can choose what. I know you can choose what areas you want to choose, and I think you can restrict it to not to external drives.
Hmm.
You can have it choose different apps. Let's see what we got here.
I tried that, but couldn't figure out how to do it.
Well, if you go into privacy, in the spotlight, you can exclude things. So exclude your time machine backup, exclude any other externals you don't want to look into. Yeah. And then it will not search for in that area. What it does, it basically removes it from the index so that it can't find them. You really don't want it indexing your time machine backups anyways, because it's going to be huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I don't use Spotlight to find tags. I use the tag thing on the left.
But I think that is tapping into the Spotlight search.
Okay. Well, I'll tinker with that then.
On a secondary note, if you do use the search directly instead of the tag list, you have the ability of choosing your tag and saying, okay, just show me JPEGs that have that tag.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, Ken, if you open a Finder window and instead of doing the search, if you actually do Command F or in the file menu, choose Find at the bottom of that menu of the bottom of the file menu, you can set parameters. You can say, you can have multiple rules for targeting what it is that you're looking for. So that might be a good way of doing that as well. So
Where
it's
do I set those rules?
so go to a Finder window,
Yeah.
and then once you have a Finder window, under the file menu, you can do a find or just use the shortcut Command F, and that find will bring up a place for you to be able to add a bunch of different criteria for your search.
Okay.
Kevin,
Yeah.
actually, you can get that right from the Finder window in the search. If you type in a tag, so let's go here. You'll see this pop up. It'll drop down here, and there's my tag. Then I can type in JPEG.
Oh,
That's good.
Okay.
yeah.
And you can once you hit return and it shows it up there, you can add another thing. You can add as many things as you want. So now there's all my JPEGs that have that tag.
Wow.
Ah,
I can put a date range. I can put part of a name. I add that to. So do your tags and kinds first, and then any freeform search last. Because it's hard to, once you have a freeform search, it's hard to then add a tag to that. But if you do the tag first, you can add a freeform search at the end. So I can go at the end here and say, okay, let's go with June.
In the find command, you're able to actually choose other and then go to and use location as one criteria. And Ken's issue that he was talking about was that it comes up in 3 different locations. Comes up in a time machine backup, and then a iCloud backup, and whatever. So doing the find, and then choosing other at the bottom there, great. And then when you choose other, you get a list, and you can go to location and check location as an option, and potentially limit your search that way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, that's, I think, geographic location. There's another one. Is it called location though?
Yeah.
I don't.
wow, Ken, look at that stuff.
Yeah, lots of options.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So
You
you
can
really
slice and dice that for weeks, Ken.
you can look through that list, and once you check it, then it'll show up in the menu as something that you can choose much more quickly than going to this other all the time.
Okay.
You even have your metadata.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
By
that
the way,
might get you a little bit more without having to guess what word you need to put in order to refine your search in the search bar. Using the find menu might work a little better for you.
Well, I don't think there's any question about it. I use the Open Apple Find, or what do y'all call it, Command Find,
Yeah.
all the time. But I hadn't thought about using it for tags, and I guess it would work just fine.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
change from kind, you can just go to other and then, check next to tag and then,
And you have the search up here so you can find things quickly.
yeah.
Okay.
That
Wow.
adds it in the menu.
So, okay.
And then you hit the plus here, you can actually search for multiple things this way.
Well, that's what I was saying is he could have a tag, but he could also have a location or whatever
Right.
in order to really get his search to exactly what he wants.
Wow.
Yeah. But by the way, I'm so anal on tags that I learned this past week that you can actually tag within Apple's notes. Now, they have a terrific find command in notes, but I put tags on everything. I didn't think you could do it in notes, but you can.
The most impressive thing about tags to me is the fact that because they use the label function, which some people were upset about, but most people didn't even use. All they did gave it a pretty color. That was about it. They use that space to store the tag information, which means you can send that tagged file to somebody who has a Windows machine, an old Mac prior to tagging, and that information is still preserved. You don't lose it. If that file comes back to you, you'll still have all your tagged information.
So that's metadata that hangs in there. Why can't I get my other metadata to hang in there?
That I don't know.
How are you putting the metadata in, Ken?
Where it says comments, where you get information on a file, you hit get information, and it gives you all that information down the left-hand side. And about 3/4 of the way down, there's a box that says comments. And
Yeah.
so that's where I put the identification of my relatives. And I type away, and folks, it sticks with that file, but it doesn't move with that file.
Yeah. Well, that's probably because in my experience, Apple has always treated comments like, oh yeah, well, I forgot to put this in the basic stuff. So they don't give it a whole lot of preference for, moving it and retaining it with the rest of for example, the exit stuff.
Well, yes, the metadata is usually stored in a specific spot, not in comments. So that may be why it's not
Right.
There are some utilities that you can download that will let you view and edit the metadata on a file.
The exit, right. Get a
Yeah.
good exit modify or app, and you can make it do anything you want within the exit dimensions.
Yeah. And that should stick because that information is part of the file, not an add-on. It's something that is in the core file definitions.
It sounds like to me I'm calling it by the wrong name. It goes back to the genealogy work I'm doing. I've got a picture with 10 people in it. I want to put those names there, who they are, left to right, and I want to be able to send that to you, whether you have an Apple, a PC, or whatever you have, and I want that information to stick. It may not be metadata. I don't know.
When you have the image, are you doing this in photos?
No, I'm not doing it in photos because I use photos for very little. I have about 40,000 photos and they're all on an external SSD. I use photos to do some basic edits, Pixelmator to do some heavier exits or edits, and then they go right back to that external SSD. And that's where I'm losing the information. Because I don't want to clutter my computer up with 40,000 photos in photos.
You can in photos now have multiple libraries. So
I knew that.
You could create a separate library for those, deal with those without them cluttering up your other library, your main library.
And you can hide those separate libraries and then even assign them a password.
Okay, but I don't want them on my main computer because I don't have that one. I got like 12 gigabytes or something. I don't know. I don't have 2 terabytes or 4 terabytes, which I have on the SSDs that are attached.
Yeah, you can store the library itself anywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Doesn't have to be on the main.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the way that you're doing it, Ken, where you're clicking on just get info on a file and putting something under comments, that isn't the same as metadata.
Right.
Yeah, this,
So that's not going to carry forward. You need to open it up in a like photos or and then from there you could add a title, caption, keywords, and those will stick with it wherever you move them.
And a copyright. I mean, if that's important to you.
Right.
how much,
But I'm looking at the get info window, and there's no place in there to be able to modify
Mm-mm.
Metadata.
yeah, metadata that's going to carry over to somebody else or
Well, you have the EXIF data on all photos. If you're using software, you should be able to include anything you want in the EXIF data, and that is embedded in the image.
That's- yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're
if-
talking. Yeah.
if he were opening it up in a like preview or someplace like that or photos, that's yes, but he's just doing the get info. So he's highlighting a file and
Right.
he's clicking, Command I, and then there isn't really any place there in that window to add something that's going to stick with it.
It's that's a general purpose information source.
Right.
And so it doesn't have the specific things you need. EXIF was developed in such a way that it would carry forward on any computer,
Yeah.
on any processor, type, or whatever. So that's the place you need to be putting these names.
I use Adobe Bridge, which is free, and you have complete access to the EXIF data. And you can put whatever you want in there, and then it transfers over and it's still searchable.
yeah,
And there
I
are
tried,
some editors that don't have
Bridge,
Bridge.
but I wasn't smart enough to figure it. I don't think it's hard to use, but I don't know, it was clunky or something about it I couldn't figure out. Maybe I need to spend more time with it, Terry.
Bridge is a monster because it's meant to do everything. It's the literally the connection between all Adobe products. So it can store PDFs and video clips and sound clips and everything. So it's kind of a overkill, but it does have full access to the EXIF data.
And it is free. That's the best
It is
part.
free.
Yeah.
And there are some free editors if you just want to edit that data and not have to go through the whole Bridge. You don't have need for the other aspects of it.
Okay, it
Yeah,
sounds like an in-process project that I need to work on.
You need to get an EXIF editor.
EXIF.
Yes.
If you come over today, I'll show you on Bridge what can be done.
Great. I do plan to come over, by the way.
Okay.
I have a very boring question, but I have been hit by just an awful load of email, and I'm wanting to know some ways to get rid of it. I unsubscribe. I'm careful about putting my email out. Look forward to suggestions.
First suggestion, do not unsubscribe to anything unless you know you subscribed to it.
Okay.
Because what that does is actually tell whoever sent it to you that they have a valid email address, and it will potentially increase your spam. So just mark those as junk. That's really all you can do. If you, like I said, if it's a brick and mortar like Kohl's, it's coming from Kohl's, yeah, you can unsubscribe to it. If it was something you subscribe to, yeah. But if it's just some random email that's unsubscribe is an honor system. It's basically saying, hey, Mr., I don't want this. And Mr. says, oh, I will honor your wishes. It's not on the honor system. There's no guarantee the person on the other end is going to be honorable. So, the unsubscribe is probably the first thing I would avoid. And then, just got to mark them as junk. Don't just delete them. Mark them as junk. Because when you mark them as junk, the system starts to evaluate that, and it creates a template of what to look for. It won't be immediate. It has to kind of build it, because they have to be careful not to take things that you do want and accidentally mark them as junk. So it tends to be a little more on the cautious side. But if you keep at it, it will start reducing your emails. Additionally, Apple has the hide my email function. I use that a lot whenever you do something that needs an email. Let it use the hide my email. What that does is it creates a random email that is linked to your account. And should you down the road decide you don't want that anymore, that link is broken, and anything sent to that other email address never makes it to you. So it just cuts off that connection. So that can be very helpful. A little trick that I started years ago was I went to Yahoo and created a gwagner555@yahoo.com account. Anytime something needs an email that I really don't want to give my email, I will give them that email address, immediately log in and forward the one email that they send for confirmation or whatever to my real email address. Anything that they send after that goes to my Yahoo. I never see it. I can log into that account on any given day and probably have anywhere from 50 to 100 spam. That spam is not in my main inbox because of that. So that's a little trick I learned. That the hide my email kind of helps with that a little bit too, but this goes a step further and basically says, I only want the one email I have to have from you. After that, go away.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And trust me, that's not a boring question. That is probably on the minds of everybody in this Zoom.
Yep.
Spam is the only thing that's worse right now for me is text and phone spam. I'm getting spam calls and spam texts. And I will put this out there if I haven't said this before, or if you haven't heard me say this before. On your phone, on your iPhone, if you go into settings and you go into phone, there is an option that says silence unknown callers. Best feature ever. What that does is if it's a phone number that is not in your contacts and you have never called it, it will immediately send it to voicemail. If it's important, they'll leave a message, call them right back. 99% of the time, it's not. And I what's really annoying is I will go into my recent calls and my phone will have not rung, but I'll go into my recent calls and I will have 30 spam likely calls. Okay. And I'll clear those out. And a half hour later, I'll have another 30. So if my phone had been ringing, it would be ringing off the wall. So it's one of my favorite features.
The other option that I use, since my phone, I get business calls on my phone and they're not going to necessarily be in my contacts. With the new operating system on the phone, you can send it to voicemail, and then you can basically preview the person you can be listening or watching a transcription of what they're leaving in the voicemail. Then I can pick up if it's a valid call. Most of the time, if it's a invalid call, if it's a junk call or a robocall, they'll just hang up, and I'll know that, that's not anything legitimate. But most people will leave a voicemail if it's something important, and then I can screen it and then pick up before it ends so that I can take the call.
Sounds on the caller do the same thing actually. If you've ever noticed at the top of your phone, you'll see the little tape recorder icon of the voicemail being done, and you can click on it and screen it at that point. But the difference is if the phone doesn't ring, you don't have to send it to it. Because if I had to send these to voicemail, I would be spending all day sending the voicemail. Somehow my number got out there, and it's bad.
Just a popular guy, George. I mean, everybody wants to talk to you.
Every once in a while, there'll be a voicemail listener that says that.
Yeah.
I got to the very end of the recording before they ran out of time. Also in texts, they now have a function. If you delete a text, it will ask if you want to report it. And if you do that, it's reporting as a junk text. They're not doing much with that yet, but I'm expecting that they'll probably have a spam filter for texts in the near future.
Good. Yeah.
We're laying the groundwork for it now, kind of get the database of bad numbers. Also keep in mind, when you get a spam call, a lot of people say, well, I just blocked that number. The problem is the number that they're displaying. When they made caller ID, that was what, 30, 40 years ago, they didn't put any security in it. They didn't think that they'd need security in it. It was basically a convenience so you knew who was calling. Well, because they didn't put security in it, it can be edited to say anything. I've gotten spam calls from my own number. So what happens is when you block them, you're blocking a number that's actually a legitimate number of somebody that you may not know now, but if it is somebody that potentially you need to be in contact with, they'll call you and never be able to contact you. And the thing is that they usually use your area code, so the chance of them catching a number you could potentially need is possible. Might not be big, but it's possible. So that's where the unknown caller is nice, because it just doesn't ring through. I will look, and if I get a call from the same number a lot of times, then yes, I will do that. But most of the time, if you look at the numbers, they're different numbers every single time. And that's because they're using a little program that basically just puts in a random number, and they're usually within your area code, so you think it's somebody local, and you answer, you're more likely to answer. But yeah, it's one of those things where they don't think it through when they implement things. Any other questions?
George,
Yeah.
how do I create a new photo library?
So if you go into photos and go into the photos, and under the file menu should have it's just a new thing.
The only way I know how to do that is when you first launch photos to hold down the option key and then choose a new library.
Oh, that's right. That's what it is. Thank you. So as you said, you just hold down the option key when you launch photos, and it won't automatically launch your normal library. You'll have the choice of choosing what library or creating a new library.
Okay.
Now, only one library can be your system photo library. That's the one that synchronizes to the cloud and such. So once you create a second library, one of them will have to be designated. Usually it defaults to the first one you create. But if you want that to be different, you need to go into preferences under photos. And in general, there's a little button that says use as system photo library. If that option is dimmed, then that is already your system photo library.
Okay.
And that
Thank
photo
you.
library can be stored anywhere. Okay. If you want to move a library, quit photos, move the library. When you go to open it, it won't find it and say, hey, can you locate it for me? Then you just tell it now, and it will remember that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. On the iPhone, it always says my voicemail is 90% full. And yet when I look at the voicemail, there's nothing in it and all the messages are deleted. So I'm not sure why it's telling me it's 90% full.
If you look, when you delete anything on an Apple product, they put it in a recently deleted for 30 days. So you have the choice of changing your mind. So if you look into your photo or your phone, the voicemail, there is a recently deleted. So if you delete
I go into recently deleted and I delete all of those too. And then I'm still getting that message.
Basically, if you I mean, there is a limit, but it shouldn't be that few. How many voicemail messages do you have?
I might have 3 left on the entire voicemail, and all the deleted messages are cleared. So that there's only maybe 3 messages in there.
I mean, unless they're extraordinarily long messages, that shouldn't have. I mean, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Who's your carrier?
I've got like
Verizon.
20 of them. Check, is your phone short on space?
Not that I know of. No, it's pretty good actually.
Okay.
I would give Verizon a call. Their tech support's pretty good, and see if there isn't something that is storing it elsewhere, not on your necessarily in your phone, but that you're getting a message that, you know, you might have to just turn something off and turn it back on again.
Mhm.
But Verizon might be able to tell you why you're getting that error message.
Okay. I'll give
Because
them a call.
if it's not in your voice, if it's not showing up in your voicemail on your phone, and you've cleared the deleted messages in your voicemail, I can't imagine why you would still be getting that message.
Yeah, that's the problem. And I thought maybe there was a setting that said keep everything somewhere for so many days, regardless of what you do, but haven't figured that out either.
Google says that there's a saved on their end, a saved voicemail that if you dial 86, it'll allow you to delete it on their end. And that may be what they're referring to.
Okay,
On Verizon?
Yes.
Okay.
thank you.
I put the instructions in the chat list.
George,
Yeah.
I did the option as I open Photos, and I come to a screen that says, welcome to Photos. To get started with Photos, do any of the following. Connect a camera or memory card. Drag pictures directly into Photos. Choose Import from the File menu. Turn on iCloud Photos and Preferences.
So you
Which of
created a
those?
new library, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the new library has nothing in it. And that's what
Okay.
this is telling you now. What do you want to do? And so you can drag photos into it. You can, import from a camera. You can import from your phone. Don't hook it up to your iCloud because your other library is probably hooked up to your iCloud and you don't want 2 sets of.
Right. And I don't want the camera. So drag pictures directly is what I need to do.
Most likely, yeah.
Or use the import option from the file menu.
The nice thing about the drag option is that you can create albums and drag them directly into the album, and then create another album, drag another group into that album, rather than doing en masse, 300 pictures that you're then gonna have to organize.
Yeah.
Especially if you might have them organized in folders already.
I've got some, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just create an album, drag those photos from that folder into that one album, create a new album, the photos from the next folder into that album. If that organization is something you want to keep.
Now, all these things are grayed out, it looks like. So I have to do this, drag pictures directly into Photos.
What is there a window that you just read off? Do you have to answer that?
No, it's just a display of those 4 options, all of them grayed out.
Well, I think it's you don't hit a button or anything. You just, if you want to do the import, that should be in the file menu. If you want to do the drag, you just drag it right to that window. That message should go away as soon as you add something to the library.
Okay, how do I add something to the library?
Drag it to that window or go to the file menu and choose import.
Drag it to that window, but I don't.
where
I
that
don't
message
see
is.
anything to drag.
No, from your Finder, wherever your photos are. On the desktop, just you grab a picture, drag it into that window.
Okay. All right, I'll fiddle around and see what happens.
Any other questions? Ken, you only had one. You feel okay?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, if that's the questions, I want to thank everybody for coming. We will see you all next month, and we'll hopefully have some more information on in person. And we should have the video and the PDF uploaded today. I'll send it off to Terry. So everybody have a great weekend.
And everybody put August the 10th on your calendar in the afternoon.
Okay,
You guys have a good weekend.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.